Hello and welcome to another edition of the Stench of Truth. There are so many topics that I could talk about, but it would take me probably an hour or more to go over all of them because there are so many things that have been happening. Of course, we've had continued disappearances of airplanes and subsequent disappearance of people, and we've had the immigration thing. Well, before I get started, welcome to another edition of the Stench of Truth, and let me apologize for not being around for a while. Still, of course, Christmas is the really busy season for me, and I've been doing a lot of work trying to repair things around my home and upgrade and improve some stuff here, so excuse my absence. Now, let me just say this right off the bat. I may slip into some profanity here and there, so NSFW, and watch out for the kids, okay? Profanity alert, because some of this stuff may get under my skin, okay? So I'm going to have to limit myself here to talk about one of the most important things that has been going on, and that is this police killing people. And of course then the killing of a couple of police officers in New York and some of the fallout from all of this. And let's look at some of what's going on here. First of all, okay, the police have been engaged in overzealous enforcement of law for a long time, okay? And most of this is in pursuit of money, and the targets for this are the people just like you and me, okay? Now, ask yourself, when was the last time that a police officer arrested a fucking multi-millionaire? Ask yourself the last time the police beat the fuck out of a goddamn billionaire, huh? Now, do not tell me that these people, whenever they are out in the world, that they do not sometimes engage in behaviors that would cause the attention of the police to be drawn to them, okay? Because for relatively small offenses, the police basically murder people, okay? Now, having said that, before I go any further, let me talk about the police and this idea of there being good police officers mixed in with the so-called bad police officers, okay? And I have to ask you this. When you have Eric Garner, who is choked to death in New York for a really petty crime of selling loose cigarettes, and ostensibly this is illegal because he's getting out of paying taxes on that. So let me ask you this. The couple of cents that are lost in revenue by this guy supposedly getting out of paying taxes, which is probably not true anyway, because wherever he got his cigarettes from, they probably already were taxed, okay? But let's just say that's the case. Let's say he did get out of paying taxes on his cigarettes. Ooh! Oh, it's so terrible. He's robbing the state of money. So therefore he should be choked to death and murdered by the police. So what about the good police? What about all those police that were standing around while he was being choked to death and murdered? Would any quote-unquote good person stand around and do nothing? Furthermore, if you are a quote-unquote good cop and you're standing there watching that, if you don't intervene, you're an accessory, which makes you a fucking bad cop. Alright? Now, this petty issue of taxes on the cigarettes, ludicrous. Why don't you ask the fucking governor and the mayor of New York City why it is that they get a tax from Wall Street transactions a transaction tax, a stock transfer tax, whatever you want to call it. It's been in effect for a long time. They collect it, and then they immediately give it back to Wall Street. So if you're worried about taxes, why don't you make an issue of taking that money and a whole lot fucking more from these fucking chiselers and goddamn criminals on Wall Street? And why don't we hear stories in the news about SWAT teams breaking down the door of fucking Citibank or Bank of America for their money laundering? But no, people are murdered on the street by the enforcers of these people, because that's what the police have become. They've become the enforcers of the rich to shield them from the rabble, as it were. So we're like in pre-revolutionary France, for fuck's sake. So what's to be done? First of all, anybody who denies that there's a racial component to the police overzealousness is just completely stupid and is denying the facts of history. Okay? This is a legacy that has been going on for a long time. But, the overall target for police violence are the underclasses. And that includes people of every race. It just so happens that there's an endemic policy in this country to still generally keep black people down. And that's why when you look at people who are in prison, the majority of people are black, even though the majority of people committing crimes are white, because there are more white people than there are blacks. It stands to reason. But one thing they all have in common is that they're all poor. Now, what are some of the things that you can do about this? First of all, you yourself should not be looking at people of other races with animosity if you occupy the same class. If you're both poor, you need to work together to counteract the effects of the enforcers and the police. All right? Now, that is a key thing. We should not be driven apart by race from these fuckers, because that's all they ever do, right? All they ever do is try to drive a fucking chisel between us. Every little crack that they can find, they want to open that up and let the blood flow, so that you will not realize that there are more powers in numbers. And thank goodness, in a lot of these police protests around the country, there are people of every race there. Let's keep it that way. For the love of God, let's keep it that way. We had a case here in Pittsburgh a few years back. An honor student, a young black man, honor student, his name was Jordan Miles, going through a quote-unquote bad area of the city, which is just a colloquial term used in the media and by the police to determine that it's a black neighborhood, okay, at a certain, hour of the night, which wasn't even ridiculous, like 2 o'clock in the morning or anything, just nighttime. Here's a kid, never committed anything wrong, never had any criminal record, nothing, honor student, intelligent, even a musician. I believe he played a violin. I'm not sure about that. It's been a while since I looked at that case. But just jumped by plainclothes police officers and beat to fuck because, they thought he was dealing drugs. Well, why? You don't got no fucking evidence. They didn't say who they were. They just come flying out of a car, tackle this guy, and beat the living fuck out of him. Okay? Thank God he's still alive. There are people who are not alive now. Eric Garner choked to death. When I see police, the ignorant fucking troglodyte police who wear shirts that say, "I can breathe." Well, you know what? Why don't you go one better, you fucking shitbag? Why Why don't you wear a shirt saying, I'm glad Eric Garner was fucking murdered by my fellow officer for avoiding 22 cents in tax, whatever the fuck it is. And I'm glad he didn't listen. And I'm glad that all of those other cops standing around were accessories to his fucking murder. Because you're not subtle enough. The justice system is rigged in this country to protect people who have money. And if you are rich, you can avoid punishment. It's as simple as that. You can. And if you happen to get arrested or indicted, just buy yourself the best lawyer. You'll never see a day in jail. And you'll get off scot-free. And of course, if you're a police officer and you're accused of a crime, the entire prosecutorial system works for your boss. So how are you going to get justice if you're looking at it from our point of view? All right. Let's not be driven apart by these ideas of race. All right. But by the same token, if we are demanding justice from the police and the justice system in general, which is a real fucked up thing because the justice system is filled with injustice. If we demand justice, then we have to act accordingly. And that is to say that it's not open season on police. And the police who were murdered in New York have every right to the same kind of justice that we have. And if someone had a grievance against them, in particular, which it doesn't look like, it just looks like some fucking criminal thug decided to, quote unquote, make a name for himself by killing 2 police officers. But let's just say you had a grudge against a police officer. You have no right. You have no right to act with injustice and inhumanity and inflict any damage on him. Now you might say to yourself, well, trying to bring charges against him in the justice system is going to lead you nowhere. Well, that may be true. That may be true. And that's one of the things that we have to address. The justice system in this country needs to be changed. It needs to be changed in a way that will bring real criminals to justice and will not ignore blatant illegal activity by rich people, by corporations, and by others who can buy their way out of it. Because what ends up happening is that the justice system ends up being a churning profit organization for the people who control it. And that's the rich. And the rich are never going to turn their eyes back on themselves. And the enforcers are never going to come to collect. No matter how many times the rich rob and commit fraud. It's as simple as that. So, there is no way I'm ever going to support anybody going out and targeting the police for anything. However, when it comes to protests, I get sick and tired when I hear in the media that 2 protesters were arrested for smashing windows at a protest at blah, blah, blah. No. The people who broke the fucking windows, the people who loot, the people who burn shit down, they're not protesters. They're fucking criminals. I don't want to hear another motherfucker referring to people committing acts of violence and or property damage as fucking protesters. Because the last time I looked, the right to peacefully assemble shall not be fucking infringed. Alright? Now, they ignore the Constitution when they feel like it. But by God, we need to stand on those basic principles. If you're going to protest, you protest. Protesting is illegal. I don't care what you do. And I think protesting that blocks the flow of traffic and commerce and money is the only kind of protest that gets you noticed. Protesting in an empty lot behind a fucking abandoned warehouse is going to do shit for you. So yes, block a fucking bridge. Block the entrance to a port. Block a major highway. I think that is perfectly acceptable. As long as you're committing no acts of violence, as long as you're damaging no property. And if there are people amongst you who are doing that, agents provocateur, or plants from the police department, and that's another thing, plainclothes police department people infiltrating these groups. And there was one instance where one of them was found out and pulled a gun on somebody and pointed it right at them. Unidentified. Now see, in that case, you're not wearing anything to indicate that you're an officer of the law. You pull a gun on me. If someone in the crowd was like, holy shit, and shoots you, well, too fucking bad, motherfucker. I didn't know you were a cop. And what the fuck are you doing infiltrating a protest group here? Now, bottom line, all of us peons, all of the people who occupy the lower classes, the ones that are targeted for police enforcement and brutality and everything else, we all need to stick together. I don't care if you're Asian, Black, Hispanic, Latino, however you categorize yourself. All right? I'm with you. And I think everybody needs to be with everybody else. Put aside your racism and all this other stuff that has you divided and realize that that we do have strength in numbers. And we really need to come together and realize that that's the case. So I hope that these protests continue. But at the same time, we do not cheer people who murder police for no reason. Okay? Just like we're horrified when the police choke to death somebody. Or within 2 seconds of rolling up on a 12-year-old, murder him. So, let's all stick together. Let's realize that there's a culture of racism. Okay? There is still a culture that puts down black people. Now, when it comes to white privilege, I guess white privilege is true only because there's a culture of putting black people down. See, I get nothing, and I get no breaks. If I have an encounter with the police, okay, I have probably the exact same probability of ending up with something given to me, whether it's a fine or whatever. Okay? I'd say it's more of a idea of putting black people down rather than white privilege. But white privilege serves a purpose, and I'm not going to quibble that point. Okay? If they're targeting blacks more than whites, then it's white privilege. Okay? There is still a remnant of this, and it needs to be addressed in the justice system. So, for everybody out there, keep protesting. And I would say to you to police your ranks, for fuck's sake. If you see people in your crowd who are engaging in criminal activity, you need to shun those people. You need to corner them. You need to push them out. All right? So that you do not get painted with that broad brush. Because the media is dying to paint every one of these protesters as criminals and as arsonists and as thieves and thugs. You understand? So, let's look at it from the other side. The police. Here's a message for the police. All right? And this will go into something that I'm looking at coming next year. We have a lawsuit that was filed against Governor Christie in New Jersey, okay, for failing to properly fund the public pension system there, okay. And the police around the country are all under the public pension system, and it's the largest pension system in the country, I believe, is the public pension system that covers municipal employees, namely police, firefighters, this sort of thing. Now, in case you've been under a rock for the last, 30 years, you know that Wall Street has systematically plundered and committed fraud on all of the public pension systems in this country. Okay? And on top of that, you have communities who systematically do not fund them. Because I guess they think that simply because, like Governor Christie argues, well, I need that money for something else, so I'm not going to fund the fucking pensions. Fuck you. See, this is the... Okay, I'm going to get off track. Let me finish my point. So they're systematically underfunded, okay? Illegally. They're illegally robbed by fucking Wall Street speculators. And it's been going on for a long fucking time. Okay? So, I would aver that the public pension system is probably on the verge of fucking collapse. And if it collapses, it's going to be a major blow to the economy, which is barely teetering, only by virtue of the fact that the economy for the super rich, because of their churning and churning of every fucking thing to squeeze every penny out that they possibly can, not to mention their fraud, robbery, and everything else that they commit illegally. That is a very real possibility, a total economic collapse in this country. And I hate to be the guy that brings fear, but you need to realize that. Now, if this lawsuit determines that Christie has to fund that pension plan, then we could see this around the country, and maybe we'll see some action in that regard. Okay? Now, if that doesn't happen, then I got news for the police. Whatever you're expecting to receive for your services, that is a good pension in the future when you retire, you are going to get fucked. Just like everybody else. And do you know what's going to happen eventually? There's going to be no public police force. Everything is going to be privatized. And you're going to be having McPolice with very little or no training, out on the streets, armed, and then ask yourself how many people are going to be murdered by these fuckers. And because they work for a corporation, they're going to be shielded from a lot of public oversight. Even less public oversight than the so-called public police have now. So, Mr. Policeman, who thinks, all I got to do is put my time in and I'm fine, I got news for you. No, you're not. You may have no fucking pension, you may have no fucking medical benefits, and you know what? You'll be in the motherfucking breadline on the street or living in a fucking cardboard box right next to the guy that you fucking beat up because he's living in an alley behind Goldman fucking Sachs. And guess what? When that private fucking police officer comes down making his minimum wage or whatever the fuck it is, well, there probably won't even be a minimum wage by then. So who knows how much he'll be fucking making. And he comes down and beats the living fuck out of you because you happen to be somewhere where some rich person's eyes were unfortunately had to look in your direction, and they're so mortified by it that they have to have you beat up. Don't wonder why. Don't wonder why. Mr. and Mrs. Police Person. The people are not your enemy. Okay? The people are not your enemy unless you make them your enemy. And if you continue the overzealousness that you have, the police brutality that you cannot deny happens constantly, all the fucking time. Just look at all the dogs that have been immediately shot to death as soon as the police arrive somewhere. Look at the people who are killed almost instantly upon police arrival. No attempt to try to de-escalate the situation. All right? You're going to be joining the ranks of these people at some point. I'm telling you right now, the police departments are going to be privatized because that is what these fuckers at the top want. But before that happens, they're going to take your fucking pension. They're going to take your whatever. You may have a decent level of pay, okay? But I'll bet you 100 fucking million billion fucking dollars that you don't make enough to meet your and your family's needs without a whole bunch of overtime. So already you're indebted to that system. You need to realize that you are on the side of the people because it's all of us. And unless you're just being a police officer because you want to quote unquote, help society, and you're already like a multi-millionaire, then you're not part of the elite. You will not be spared in the end. Because there are many people who would be very willing and eager to step into your shoes whenever your job is fucking cut. And make no mistake about it, you will be fucking targeted. And your jobs will be gone. But before that happens, your pensions will be completely robbed. Mark my words. So if you want to look for somewhere where you can have a positive impact and mind you, receive a lot more respect from the fucking public, why don't you go start looking at the motherfucking rich people? The people at the top of the fucking pyramid. The ones that you really serve. By way of the proxy police department. Why don't you start arresting some of these fuckers? And if they even give a hint of protest, beat the fuck out of them! Because that's what you do with everybody else, right? If I hear about some billionaire who committed some, minor infraction, and he's like, oh, I'm a billionaire, you can't arrest me. That's, well, as far as I'm concerned, that's resisting arrest. Time to get out the billy club and seize everything that he has under civil asset forfeiture. You start targeting the motherfucking rich and corporations. Why don't you start investigating this kind of shit? Instead of walking around the streets looking for people selling loose cigarettes. God forbid to miss out on 2 cents of fucking taxes. Why don't you ask yourself, what kind of crimes are these motherfucking rich people doing? You want to have respect from the regular people? That's what you do. And don't tell me these people are not committing crimes. They're committing crimes every day. You could go down to Wall Street and arrest every one of those motherfuckers down there. Because they've all committed fraud. And they're committing fraud against you by robbing your pension system. Bottom line, no matter your race, color, creed, whatever, if you're part of the working class, the working poor, the lower classes, let's put it this way. If you're not at the top of the fucking heap, you're part of everybody else. And I don't care if you're black, white, orange, green, speckled, polka dotted, police, non-police. We all need to be in the same fucking boat on this. Because we are all targets for the austerity-minded politicians who work for the corporations and the people at the top of the fucking pyramid. The oligarchy. And we are all going to be fucked in the end. And that includes you, Mr. Police Officer, or Mrs. Police Officer. And you need to get that through your head, police. And realize that the better you are to the people that you supposedly are part of their community, the more restrained you are, the more you interact with your local community, the better off you're going to be when you're back a member of that. And some minimum wage or less private mercenary is doing your job in the future, and you have nothing because your pension has been robbed by the oligarchy. The more you engage in that kind of activity, the more you will be appreciated and respected by the public. And if you would spend a lot more of your time looking at the criminal activities that are going on every fucking second on Wall Street, instead of worrying about somebody on the street who is selling marijuana or whatever, you know, or cigarettes that are supposedly untaxed, and murdering them for it. And if you roll up on a 12-year-old kid who has a toy gun or a BB gun or whatever the fuck it is, okay, how about not shooting them within 2 fucking seconds? And if you have to shoot somebody, did anybody have any concept of incapacitation, for fuck's sake? And how about let's roll back the overkill a little bit, okay? You guys shoot somebody 12 motherfucking times and then shoot them in the fucking head when they're laying on the motherfucking ground? Seriously, ask yourself these questions. And if you're a fucking murdering police officer, someone who targets people in the lower classes and has made an example of them, and your pension's robbed, your job's gone, and you're back with us, do you think that you are going to get a fair shake from anybody around you? Now, I would not condone in that situation anybody doing anything physically to you or committing any crimes against you. But you can damn sure bet that there is nobody that's going to come to your defense whenever you're the target of the private mercenaries. And when they beat the fuck out of you and drag you off the fucking debtor's prison so that you can build some kind of stupid crap for somebody for 2 cents an hour over some trivial infraction of the law, there's going to be no one that's going to stand up for you. Do you understand this? No one will. So please realize that, Mr. Policeman. You have to re-enter this society. You are not going to be part of the elite unless you already are. And if you already are, you're not going to be a policeman unless you're some kind of weirdo elite person. So for the people, stay together. Do not be divided by these ridiculous separations that they try to put us all in. As far as I'm concerned, it's us against them, and it always will be, until this oligarchy is overthrown. So, that's what I have to say about that. Thank you, and good day.